Welcome to this watercolor tutorial video, and in this video we are going to paint some really cool and fun capybaras. So I painted this illustration for my youngest daughter, Isabella. She turned 11 and she is crazy about the capybaras. She loves them, and I understand why, because they are so unbelievably cute and relaxed, and I don't know, I can really get involved in that entire hype myself as well. And it's also a lot of fun to draw these and to paint these because they have got these really cute and fun characteristics. So first I start with a sketch, of course, and to help you, as always, I created an outline of the sketch, and you can download it in the description below, and you can use that as a reference, or you can trace it however you like. So if there are any questions about the sketching process, or if there's anything you would like to learn, or what would help make it easier for you to learn how to sketch, please let me know. I am open for any suggestions. I would just really love to learn what would help you to make this part easier, because I can understand that this part feels very overwhelming. And there's one thing I can say, and I also tell this to my girls because they're always like, "Mom, how did you get so good at drawing? I am not so good and I want to be good. How do you do it?" And the only thing I can think about is that I started drawing when I was 4, and I love doing it, so I did it very often. And that's the thing with anything you would like to learn. You need to do it very often, and it helps if you like doing something, because when you like doing it, you automatically tend to do it often. So practice does make perfect. Don't let things scare you off. There is no need to make things perfect. Just try it. And as I said, there's an outline there. You can also use it to trace it, and then you have your sketch ready for the painting part. And I personally always love that part. I think it's the easiest part. Perhaps I'm biased, but I think that once we're ready with the sketch, we can dive into the painting part. Now, when I started this video, I totally forgot to introduce myself for those who are new to my channel. So let me quickly tell you, my name is Sandra, and I'm a watercolor artist and illustrator from the Netherlands. And I love to create tutorial videos to help teach others how to draw, how to paint, mostly with watercolor, but I would love to expand on other creative endeavors as well, and of course other mediums as well, because watercolor is not the only thing that I do. And now, when you are ready with your sketch, I missed telling an important step. Well, first of all, let me quickly tell you, if you do the sketch, if you want to practice, do that on cheap printer paper or in a sketchbook. And when you are ready to create your final composition for your art print, do that on watercolor paper. Use an HB pencil, and then you can use a soft eraser to erase lines that you don't need. And when you're ready, use a kneading eraser to lift off the excess pencil from your paper. So as you can see at this moment, you can hardly see my pencil lines. That has got to do something with the camera as well. I am able to see those lines very lightly, very gently, so I know where I need to put my paint. But I prefer that those pencil lines are invisible, or at least as invisible as possible in the end result. So another thing that I would like to mention is that see this as a coloring sheet that you are drawing in, and stay within those lines. And stay within those lines. Try not to touch those pencil lines. So this way, with watercolor, if you go over a line, then you can't erase that pencil line anymore. And watercolor is transparent, so that means that that pencil line stays visible underneath your watercolor layer. But if you stay within those lines and you don't cover the pencil lines, then later on, after your illustration, the paint has dried, you can erase those pencil lines and you don't see them in the end result. So that's something you can keep in mind. Another thing to keep in mind when you're doing this, when you are staying within those pencil lines, when you want to add paint in another area adjacent to what you have painted previously, then the paints won't touch each other, so they won't blend in together. And at some point you really want to prevent those colors, those paints blending in together, because that just doesn't fit with the illustration that you're making. For example, if I would paint in those eyes at the moment, I painted all over the illustration now, so you would know that the dark blue that I would use for that would blend in with all the paint that is still wet, and that's something you don't want to happen. And now you see that I am painting the second capybara, and I really want to avoid touching it with the orange of the first capybara, because I really want to make visible that these are two different animals, and I don't want to have them merge into one capybara. Of course, they have the same color, so if at some point something accidentally does blend in, that's not a total disaster. But you really want to use that white space to really make sure what the outlines are of your illustration. And well, as I said, you don't want to have colors mixing in with something that you don't want to have there. So for example, if I would paint in those presents, those gifts at the moment, if I would use some pink or blue and I would touch the orange brown of the capybara, then it would totally blend in together, and then you get this pink or blue, or well, maybe even a muddy color of the capybara, and I don't know, that just isn't aesthetically pleasing. And of course, there are moments when these accidents do happen, and if it doesn't happen too often, you can even get lucky that the color really look beautiful, they add something. And it's also the characteristic of watercolor. You see this happening with the balloon at this moment, that the purple slightly and really slightly touched that pink, and now the balloon has a pink area as well. And I see also the yellow is blending into the pink of the balloon. Now this feels like happy accidents. I really don't mind, and I really love the effect it gives. This is truly the nature of watercolor paint, and this is what I love about it. So just keep this in mind. Try to be careful. Sometimes it doesn't need to be perfect. It's just that when you are aware of it, then you can prevent the less happier accidents to happen. So, well, as you can see, I have painted these capybaras, all three in the same color, and I'm building it up. And now I am adding some burnt umber for shading, and I am painting quite roughly, so I'm not doing it very perfectionistic. It's just some harsher lines, and I keep building up, adding more darker pigment on my brush. I'm even using a really dark gray color now to add some more shades, some more pigment, mostly to the paws and as shading for their body. And you can see them, well, they become less flat. They were flat at first, and now you can see that they turn into a bit, it's not really 3D, of course, they're still flat images, but you know what I mean. And I like to use the tip of my brush for certain parts to paint like little stripes, because of course they're furry animals, and I love to have some parts look kind of furry. You can do this at the edges of some areas, and you know, there are some places, well, of course you can use a reference photo of a capybara. Perhaps you don't even know what a capybara is, and I would really suggest to look up some images. They are really, really adorable, especially when they have a mandarin on their head or when a pelican is trying to eat them. So now you really might feel like you want to look that up. I can imagine. So what was I saying? Yes, I'm just building up, adding more pigment and pigment. And you see I've painted those details on the face. Please make sure that your first layer of paint has dried completely before you start adding those details, because as I said before, otherwise that paint will start blending. You saw me just here fixing that little error when one of the nose, the dots of the nose accidentally touched the wet brown of the capybara, and I really needed to quickly fix that because it started to blend in, and that was a mistake I really, really didn't want to have in there. So not a happy accident. So adding some raw burnt sienna because I really, you know, I want more red brown color on there. Just using that top of the tip of my brush for that furry accents. And what I can also like to do is just clean my brush and make it slightly wet to gently brush, like blend brush that layer to make it less harsh. If you want to do that, as I said, just clean your brush and make it slightly wet. Now this is also something that I can do, like those details with the flowers, the bouquet and the ribbon, when the other paints have dried, because otherwise everything will get blended in together and very muddy. So this is called the wet on dry technique, in case you were wondering. And I decided to use a marker, a very thin marker, to add those straws of the strings of the balloons, because they are very, very tiny. And I wanted to make it very festive because it's a party, and I felt like this illustration could use some extra in the background. So I'm just adding a lot of confetti with my small round brush. I think this is a size 6, so it's relatively small. I've got teeny tiny brushes for really small details, but a size 6 will do for this. And just adding confetti, adding dots, circles, but also small stripes, and using all kinds of colors. You don't need to do this. Also, I am doing this on an A4 size paper, slightly bigger even. And I can imagine that you would like to do this to create a birthday card for someone. So you can of course do it smaller, although of course people like bigger cards as well. So another tip I can give you, if you have like a big piece of watercolor paper, to fold it so you can have an actual card, and then just paint one side, you know, like the right side of that paper. So you are actually creating a birthday card for someone. Now that is such an unbelievably awesome and a nice personal gift you can give someone. So okay, now you're missing what's happening in the bottom. I'm going to show you that but this is something you of course don't need to do. This is a card for my daughter, so I wrote her name and her age on it. And of course, if you do know an Isabel who's turning 11, you can do this as well. You can also do this for the person that you know that you are creating this card for. I used a Posca, black Posca, to do this, but you can use any marker, and you can even use your brush and some paint to do this. And you don't need to do this at all. It's just that if you like to create this for someone, as I said, this is such a nice personal gift to give. And I am adding some more details with a smaller brush. And well, this is something that I love to do, is add some metallic paint for some extra finishing touches. You don't need to do this if you don't have any metallic paint. This is completely optional. I just like the extra details it gives to an illustration. So I really hope that you enjoyed this tutorial video, and please like this video, comment below what you thought about it, and of course if you created a card that you sent to someone. And yes, if you I would love it if you post your creation on your socials and tag me at Sandra Art Studio and use the hashtag #CreateWithSandras. I really would love to see what you've created. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and there are so many more other tutorial videos already available on my channel. Hope to see you there.